Good morning. Oh, come on. Good morning. My name is Reverend Kylie Renner, and on behalf of the entire One Spiritual Center community, I want to thank you for being here today. Thank you for bringing your love into this space this morning. I don't know about you, but I've been having one of those experiences where life feels like it is very full right now. It feels like all kinds of things are happening all at once, and all of them lovely. So I want to tell you a little bit about some of the loveliness, which is yesterday I got to perform the wedding ceremony of one of our beloved couples that are part of our community. And I have known them since right when they got together the second time, because this couple's love story spans decades. They were friends and dated in high school, and then went their separate ways, and then ended up back in the same place in a time in their lives where we're gonna do this again this week. In a time in their lives where they had gotten to that point in their individual development where it could work. And it was one of those experiences, being surrounded by one of those amazing, huge New Mexico families. And I was so touched by how incredibly excited people were that they were finally getting married. I have never been to a wedding where people were like that excited that this couple was finally figuring it out. And I was so touched just by that kind of outpouring of love that I realized that kind of love and that kind of energy is always available from Spirit. It's always there. And we have to be open to it, though. And I realize that oftentimes we're not. Oftentimes we're so busy doing whatever we think needs to happen or going wherever we think we need to go that we don't take the opportunity to realize that the infinite love of the universe is trying to say, oh my God, I love you so much. I am so excited that you are breathing and living and expanding just the way you are. And so I'm in love with that kind of love this morning, and I'm open to this idea that we allow for that love that is trying to get into our lives to open us even further this morning as we join together in community. So I want to welcome you if you're watching online, and I'm just honored that you all chose to be here this morning. So we're going to begin with some prayer. And if you're comfortable, I invite you to close your eyes. And we're just going to let ourselves lean into that love. That love that sits at the center of who and what we are. And as we allow ourselves to open, I recognize that love expanding. As we give it room to be in our lives, it expands to fill that space to overflowing. So we just let that love pour through us and in us and around us. And we open to a recognition of our true capacity to give and receive from that place of love. For there are no limits to it. And so we let go of our fear and our limited ideas of ourselves, and we open to the truth of who we are, which is so expansive and so beautiful that it can't help but shine and transform and expand. So I just honor all of the shining and transforming and expanding that is happening here today as we allow ourselves to be reminded of the truth of who we are and remind each other. And it is from that place of remembrance that I let go into this time. I let it be. And so it is.
Love is my decision. It's up to me to give of my heart. Love is my decision. No one else can tell me to start. Once I decide to change my mind, God will show me how. Love is my decision, right here and now. My decision, right here and now.
So, to set the tone for our meditation this morning, I have a new poem for you from David White. He has a new book out called The Bell and the Blackbird, and this is from a poem called Just Beyond Yourself. There is a road always beckoning. There is a road always beckoning. When you see two sides of it closing together at that far horizon and deep in your own heart at exactly the same time, that's how you know it's where you have to go. That's how you know it's the road you have to follow. That's how you know. It's just beyond yourself, and it's where you need to be. So we're going to take that energy of that place where we need to go. And we're going to allow the music to guide us to that place.
Our special music this morning, Phil Arnold is here. Phil Arnold. This is a bass trombone, right? Is that right? Bass trombone? Thank you. That's Phil Arnold. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So if you know me at all, you know I love to cook. It is one of the things I enjoy the most. I love food, and they say don't trust a skinny chef unless the chef is me. Because I can eat. And if you've been to a meal with me, you know that as well. But what I've been finding for the last few weeks, because I've been so incredibly busy, is that it's starting to feel like food is a nuisance. Like, oh my God, I have to feed my body again. Come on. And I started to think about that from the perspective of what we're feeding our souls. What are we feeding our spirits? And do we think it's a nuisance that we have to pay attention to that? Because what I'm recognizing is in order to stay sane in the world, it is incredibly necessary to be feeding our souls right now. To be making sure that our souls and our spirits are filled up so that we can be with all of the things that are challenging and transforming in a way that allows for them to expand instead of beat us down and make us feel smaller. And I recognize that in myself that sometimes I start to get resentful about how much it takes to feed our souls. Because it feels like our culture and the ideas that we have make it so that it's an afterthought. It's like all the rest of the week is for all the other things, and then Sunday morning, that's the time where we pay attention to our spirits and our souls. And I know that all of us as expanding conscious beings are really hungry on this level of how do I make sure that I'm making my soul being fed a priority in all of the things I do. In every single area of my life, can I make that idea that my soul needs to be fed through it vital and important? And I realize that this is something that is so incredibly essential, because if we are not doing that, we are not our highest selves. And we tend to behave badly, really badly. So a little bit of my story about growing up. I had a lot of amazing, powerful experiences, and I also grew up in a home that was incredibly abusive. And there was a lot of anger, and there was a lot of yelling, and there was all kinds of things that I actually would rather forget were there. And one of the things that I've come to realize as I have done healing work around this is that the man that was living in the house wasn't feeding his soul. He was supposed to be a musician. He was this amazing self-taught guitar player, piano player. He had an amazing voice. And when he was doing music, he came alive. But 99.9% of his life was spent doing air conditioning repair. And he was not prioritizing his soul's delight, his soul's hunger, to such a degree that it came out all over all of us. And I realized that through the experience of unraveling this, that I have a lot of compassion, but I also have this really deep need to make sure that I, in my own life, am feeding my soul so that I do not end up behaving badly and making everyone else around me miserable, and creating all of these things that were unnecessary on some level. So John Anthem, this is when you realize I cannot pronounce Spanish or French, and everything starts to sound like Spanish. So I'm going to not even. And I'm going to just tell you what the quote is. Tell me what you eat, and I will tell you who you are. That's the quote. And I think that it's true on the soul level. Like, tell me what you are feeding your soul, and I can tell you who you are. And are you feeding your soul with things that nourish you, that feed you, or are you feeding your soul with drama? Are you feeding your soul with fear? Are you feeding your soul with anger and resentment? And depending on what you're feeding yourself, all kinds of things start to show up. So I realized that a lot of us, because we live in a culture that doesn't tell us to prioritize this, don't have the skills to even know what it feels like or what it would mean to make sure that we are feeding our souls, even on a day-to-day basis in all of our activities. And I realized that one of the things that I have had to teach myself is that there is this capacity inside of ourselves to bring our soul to everything. Not just the places where it feels like it's appropriate or accepted, but like it is completely possible to bring our souls to taking out the garbage. It is completely possible to bring our souls to all kinds of things that we wouldn't think our souls would be needed for, but our souls and our spirits need to be present in our day-to-day lives. They need to be fully present. But this takes a level of awareness, because a lot of us have gone numb. We've gone numb and decided that we're just going to go through the motions, and we have lost the capacity to be aware in the way that we are actually being called to. So there's a story about a Zen master who had students that were required to practice diligently for at least 10 years before they would be able to teach other people. And this teacher was visited by one of his apprentices who had just completed the 10 years, and he wanted to become a teacher himself. And so the day happened to be rainy, and a student walked in and took off his shoes and put his umbrella next to the door. And after the teacher greeted him, it was remarked, I suppose you left your shoes in the vestibule. I want to know, is your umbrella on the left side or the right side of your shoes? And the student couldn't remember, and he didn't have an instant answer, and he was sent back to study for another 10 years before he could come back to be a teacher. And I think it's a little bit cruel, but at the same time, I realize that this story points to this kind of way in which we check out from what we are doing, and we check out in such a way that our souls don't get to be present. Like that real kind of remembrance doesn't get to be present. And so I'm interested in this idea that we can bring a kind of awareness where we remember where our umbrella is, and we have an opening inside of us to kind of spaciousness and stillness and awareness that allows for a different kind of aspect of ourselves to come forward. So another way I've been thinking about this is this the need we have to really find stillness. And this is so incredibly hard for so many people to find that place of stillness because we are so filled. We are so filled in every direction that stillness feels like chaos and foreign. And we often resist it even when we approach it. And so I've noticed that in myself. When stillness starts to come in my life, I tend to want to get busy, like find some next thing, some next project. But it is such an essential component for our souls to be fed, to make it a priority to find stillness. And so I personally don't have this idea that it has to look a certain way, which is really incredibly freeing, because if you think stillness has to be meditating on a rock in the middle of the wilderness and no one around, and if you think that that's what you need in order to do it, that's probably going to stand in the way, because most of our lives are not built that way. We have families and jobs and kids and chaos around us. And so then the capacity then needs to be to find stillness inside of ourselves, even in the midst of everything that's going on. And to prioritize that, to prioritize our capacity to make space. Because it doesn't have to be difficult, but it requires us to let go. And so there are all kinds of things that we need to let go of. And they come up when we approach the stillness. They come up in our desire to escape and to get busy and to have that next thing. And so if we welcome this kind of opportunity to get quiet, there's this knowingness that comes forward. So Eckhart Tolle is an amazing teacher. And one of the things that I came across that I had forgotten in his work recently was his idea that the biblical direction that says, "Be still and know that I am God," that beautiful, simple statement is actually 5 different ways and commands. So his idea is that instead of "be still and know that I am God," the truth is actually be still, know, I am God. And that those are commands for a life in which we are being and find stillness and knowing. And then that is our access point to our spirits and our souls. So what I know to be true about this is that we're hungry, and that most of us have been feeding our souls junk food. In fact, we have been feeding our souls junk food, or not feeding our souls at all. Or we've been gorging ourselves on all kinds of things in an attempt to escape what our souls are actually calling for, which is for us just to be still. To find that place of stillness. And the harder it is, the more we need to do it. And that's one of those amazing directions that's given that says that if you don't think you have time to meditate for 20 minutes, you need to meditate for 2 hours. If you don't think you have the space, you have to create it. And you must make it a priority because your soul will guide you. And it is hungry. And it is ready to feed you if you are feeding it. It is ready to nourish you in a way that you probably didn't even know was possible. And so that kind of nourishment, though, requires a level of being willing to also start to pay attention to what it is you're focusing on. Because if you are nourishing your soul with things that do not bring your soul alive, then you are going to continue to have unhealthy relationship with what your soul is actually asking for. And so I know afterwards I'm going to have someone come up to me and say, well, how do I know? How do I know what feeds my soul? And all I can tell you is you know. You really, really know. Because it is those things and those ways of being that make you feel alive, that make you remember how expansive you are. And that kind of energy you have the capacity to bring that kind of energy to everything, not just the things that in the areas you think it belongs in, but all areas of your life. And that kind of aliveness is your birthright. And so it is a requirement, though, that you are willing to be committed to it. Because if you are not willing to be committed to it, to nourishing your soul, then you are not giving it the nutrients it needs to feed you. And when you start to feel depleted, it is a really good indicator that there is not enough stillness in your world, that you haven't been paying close enough attention to what your spirit actually wants from you. And it is always there. This is the great thing. You don't have to go somewhere else to find it. It's right there. And even in the midst of life, we have the opportunity to find that place of nourishment, to find that remembrance that we're so much bigger than what's going on in our lives. And when we get that shift of focus, that shift happens, then all of a sudden there is room for more spirit and more love to move into our lives. So, this is an assignment. You're going to have to do it and then come back next week and tell me how it went. But the assignment is to create a priority in your life, and you're probably going to have to remind yourself multiple times, but make it a priority to at least start to have a conversation with yourself about some stillness. I'm not saying you have to go all the way. Because what I found in myself when I make a deeper commitment to this is that I find all of the places I'm resisting it. That's what I have to go through first. So we'll talk about that soon. But this sense in which we have a willingness to have a deeper conversation with our souls, to let it speak and nourish us, and to really allow for that to happen on a deeper level, I know can really transform everything. There's so much more energy and aliveness when we find that stillness. So your assignment is to start to have the conversation, or to deepen that conversation, or to realize that stillness can go deeper in you, and to bring forth that into your life in a deeper way. And see what happens. Because for me, I have to say it's been magical. And the deeper it goes, the more magic shows up. So I'm going to ask the band to come in because we're going to sing into prayer. But as we were preparing for that, I want you to just think about some area of your life where maybe there's an opportunity for you to start to pay attention to your soul in it. Some area in your life where maybe you've separated it out and made it the area of some other, maybe your mind. And see if through prayer and through a little bit of attention, we can have a moment to see or feel something different. So please join me as we sing into our prayer.
Our prayer of love, it lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, sets us free. Our prayer of love, it lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, sets us free.
And so our prayer of love today is a prayer of awareness. As we open deeply to allowing our spirits and our souls to be nourished, because it is the greatest desire of the universe for us to be fed on every single level. And so we allow for Spirit to guide us as we open ourselves to being nourished by love and peace and expansion and creativity. And we allow ourselves to fast from fear and anger and resentment so that our spirits can be free to create more powerfully in our lives and in the world. And I just know that there is creative energy here ready to be released through our willingness to bring our souls fully present. To no longer hide them or numb them or pay attention to them only when it is convenient. Instead, our souls are calling for our awareness of them in absolutely every aspect of our lives and all around this amazing world that we are living in. Our souls ready to be present, to our capacity to more creatively love and create possibilities. And so I just know that every single step we take in finding stillness and awareness in our lives brings us closer to who we've come here to be. Because we are no longer limited by our small idea of ourselves, and we are set free. We are set free to bring that larger vision of good and peace and power and wisdom. And we are ready to bring that vision forward more powerfully. And so I just recognize that Spirit knows how to show up in each of us. That each of us knows exactly what it is that feeds our souls. And so we make it a priority to bring our awareness and our attention to that. And everything else just falls away. And so I honor all of the beautiful ways that our souls come alive. I honor all of the infinite creativity of the universe that sent us here in all of these beautiful forms and ways of expressing and being. And I know all of them are perfect. So I honor that which brings us alive. I honor that space inside that is just so clear. I lean into it. I let it be. And so it is.
A prayer of love, it lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. A prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Once again, Phil Arnold. That's not a bass trombone. Thank you. That's Phil Arnold.
Thank you. I'm going to have that groove in my head all week. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to be walking around. I'm going to have it. So now's the time where we move into the sharing of our tithes and offerings. So I invite you to take whatever it is you brought to share with this community, and I invite you to hold it over your heart and give it a silent blessing, whatever that might be for you today. Maybe there is a desire to find some stillness, and you are willing to open to that possibility. Or maybe you can just feel that your soul is hungry and wants some nourishment, and you are willing to do whatever it is that brings you nourishment, to give yourself permission to make that a priority. Or maybe there's just a recognition that you have the capacity to bring your soul and your whole being into the world in a new way, into absolutely everything you do and be and say. And it is just in the recognition of that possibility and all of the prayer and love that is in this space that I just open. And I allow this song that we're about to sing to guide us in this. And so our ushers are coming through the aisles, and please join me.
I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening, all over this land. I'd hammer out danger, I'd hammer out a warning, hammer out the love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. If I had a bell, I'd ring it in the morning, I'd ring it in the evening, all over this land. I'd ring out danger, I'd ring out a warning, I'd ring out the love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. If I had a song, I'd sing it in the morning, sing it in the evening, all over this land. Sing out danger, I'd sing out a warning, I'd sing out the love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. Well, I got a hammer and I've got a bell, and I got a song to sing all over this land. It's the hammer of justice, it's the bell of freedom, it's a song about love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. It's a song about love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land.
So we just bless everything that has been given and received in this space today, all of the love, all of the prayer, all of the intention. And I just recognize that our souls and our spirits are grateful for the attention, grateful for the awareness, and grateful for our willingness to pay attention in a deeper way. And I know that that attention grows and expands in every direction as that love continues to flow forth, and how blessed we are. How blessed we truly are. So I'm just grateful, and I open, and I allow, and I let it be. And so it is. So, I just have to say, we sing that song a lot at my house because we are often looking for a hammer. So if you're looking for a hammer in my house, you sing, yeah, it's pretty good. All right, so I just have a few invitations. My brain, I have a lot of stillness this morning in my brain, apparently. So a few invitations. On the third Sunday of every month, we cook for Community of Hope, so that's coming up in September. And then at the end of the month, on the fourth Saturday of every month, we participate at Roadrunner Food Bank, just opportunities to be of service to our greater community. And Dan's going to hate this, but he's walking out the door back there, and I wanted to wish you a happy birthday in person. So happy birthday, Dan. The beauty of Facebook is I find out when people's birthdays are that I wouldn't have known otherwise. So we actually have a very, 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 very special birthday this week coming up, and I just want to say, happy birthday, Sid. And we won't make you sing to yourself? No, we won't do that. That's rude. But I am so honored to be walking this planet with you, and I'm so grateful to call you a friend. So, yay. Happy birthday, Sid. All right, so I made banana bread because I love to cook. So it's out there. Also, we have got like the bagel hookup now on Sundays. Like there's so many bagels out there. So like if you eat bagels, please take some. Like, cause I don't know how many dozens of bagels we were given yesterday. So thank you, Gloria Rael, for setting that up for us. And so even if you can't stick around, please take some bagels. Please take some bagels. There is an abundance of bagels. And so stick around and hang out with us and have some coffee, tea, whatever you choose, and let us sing. I still am figuring out how to do all of this with a microphone in my hand. So here we go. I can figure out what I'm doing. I really promise you I can do that. So here we are. We are benedicting. Please sing with me.
Go forth and walk in beauty, and know that we are one.